Samir, because one of the phrases which we use in Emphasis is we don't want to be collection of stars. Right. We want to be collective stars. Right. So I guess that's very
exactly what we're talking about.
So now earlier we were discussing this concept of analog CEO and digital CEO, and the digital revolution which is brewing up, which is, every industry has an opportunity to transform and create greater value, or it's a threat.
Right.
If you were to ask, to give a recommendation to an analog CEO who is confronted with this dramatic change which is going to take place over the next 3, 5 and 10 years, and saying this digital storm is brewing or digital revolution is happening, Samir, you are a successful CEO. What should I do? Should I go and hire a chief digital officer? What must I do? What would you recommend to a friend who has asked you for an advice?
So I think for somebody wanting to make that shift, who spent many years in not looking at digital, and the irony is that you could be in the technology space but not necessarily think digital, right? And so it would be almost transformational to start thinking digital, and let's understand what that means. So for me, maybe thinking digital is there's the obvious thing. It's usually internet related. It's usually, obviously it's software related. It's tech, all of that. That's the obvious thing. But I think the more the amorphous things related to that is being able to react extremely fast, thinking more from from a far more younger perspective as to what would be consumer preferences. And not all businesses are tuned to that, but they still have to shift that. So for example, social media. A lot of social media is driven by younger people's preferences. That's just the way it is. So companies that are, older companies want to come to social media, but they don't know necessarily how to handle the backlash or the openness of that communication. So I think the first thing would be for somebody to make the transformation is to jump in with, not put their toe in the water themselves, to ask other people not to put their toe in the water, but to jump right in. I saw Ronnie do this. Ronnie didn't have, the ex-CEO of UTV, did not have a Twitter account maybe 3.5 years ago. And then he took to it and sort of transformed himself into that medium. I don't think he has a Facebook page even today, but he picked a medium that was in the digital space, in the social media space, that he felt was that he could actually fit into, and then sort of, styled himself to be able to adapt to that, and then understood it really well. And I think he has close to 1 million followers today, which is hugely creditable. But you have to feed the beast. So the first thing is to get comfortable yourself. Hiring somebody in the org chart is secondary. So I would say get somebody that you trust who knows this, who's done it, and is a known, and is an established person in it. Hopefully from your peer group, and if not, hire somebody as a personal coach. And I think this philosophy of having a coach is very deeply rooted in the West. Somehow we don't tend to do it as much in India. Right. But the top CEOs in the US always talk about having their coaches that they go to. You read any big success stories, they always have a coach. And I think that coach philosophy is an important one, to bring in a coach who coaches you, and then you're able to take a far better sort of, you're able to strategize in terms of what you need to do. Because again, the digital transformation is less about the execution, it's more about the thinking of how to change a lot of, the cultural setup, your own thinking, the transparency, external communication, all of those things start coming into play in that. So personal transformation first, and then